All right, well, let me clear the slate here and talk a little bit about parenting, because of course that part of it comes into play when we're talking about each of the social environments for kids and social development, and parenting plays a huge, huge role. What is key to understand is that what we've done in the course of studying parenting is we've identified 3 different parenting styles that come into play and impact the social development of kids. The first one is a permissive parenting style, and one I'm going to add in here because your author doesn't necessarily talk about it. So the permissive parent really stands down to the children's desires. They make very few demands on the child itself, and use very little punishment. Oftentimes, parents that are permissive see their kids as an object of their worth or a determination of determining their own worth. So if their kids like them, then that means that they're a good parent. And essentially, a parent then lives vicariously through their kids. And permissive parents oftentimes don't want to alienate their kids. And we see I can't stand when I spell something wrong, determining their worth. So the permissive parent, really the kid serves as a means of affirming their goodness. And so if a kid is upset or mad or sad or whatever, the parent doesn't have good enough boundaries to be able to separate that and act as a parent, and the child really does lose out. Now, the second one is authoritarian, which permissive and authoritarian are on the 2 ends of the continuum. The authoritarian is, in a sense, my way or the highway. And they are the drill sergeant of families. And kids learn very quickly to conform to that, and they get very good at it. But the authoritarian imposes extremely strict rules. Oftentimes they run it like a drill sergeant, and there is extreme punishment, not only strict rules, but extreme punishment for the violation of those rules. And I think some would say that it looks almost abusive consequences. It looks abusive, the imposition of the consequences or the punishment, if you will. The last one is authoritative. And authoritative, if you were to diagram these 3, you would have a permissive on one end, which is giving away and being subjected to the kids. You have way out here on this other end is authoritarian. Let me back this up a little bit so that I can write it all out. You have authoritarian here. And somewhere in this band between these 2 is what we talk about as authoritative. And the key to authoritative parenting is understanding, in a sense, who is the authority. They are both demanding, if you will. They have certain very clear expectations, but they are also responsive. They are balancing the needs of the child against the needs of the future. And so they have an eye for the future in terms of development, and they understand development as well, and that's all very much part of this background of authoritative parenting. What's interesting is that when you look at God, who refers to himself as Father, in the purest sense of the word, he is an authoritative parent. He knows when to punish and when not to. It is not about him, it's about the development of us. And so a lot of times people have a very difficult time with God because he refers to himself in a parental state, and their impact or their interactions with parents have been so disrupted that seeing God as a father is extremely difficult. I'll give you a great example from history, and that is a guy by the name of Martin Luther, the man who founded Lutheranism. Martin Luther had a very difficult time because his father was so borderline abusive, cold, aloof, inaccessible, that really when he finally, his relationship to God kind of took off and he began to see God in a clearer sense, he had a very difficult time starting his prayers or referring to God as Father, because that concept had gotten contaminated, unfortunately. So he often talked about Jesus Christ and Jesus and Lord and those sorts of things because those concepts had not gotten contaminated for him. So we've got three different styles of parenting. The permissive, who gives the kid everything, has very few punishments. The authoritarian, which is way out here on the other end of the continuum, very strict rules, extreme consequences. And the balancing point of parenting, which helps to develop kids' self-esteem, self-reliance, social competence, and emotional intelligence, is contained within authoritative parenting.